All right, I'm joined now by Washington State Governor Jay Inslee, who also happens to be the chair of the Democrat Governors Association, which has a big interest in Fred Hubbell and the Iowa race here this year. Governor Inslee is a former member of Congress and has implemented a lot of really great democratic and progressive policy measures back in Washington State. So, Governor, thank you very much for joining me here on your Iowa trip.
Thanks for having me. What a beautiful state.
It is.
It really is. Actually, it really is. I love the oak trees.
Good. Well, and you're out here when we actually have some halfway decent weather, so that's been good. So I wanted to start off by mentioning that I got to meet you, I think, 9 years ago, and I've always been keeping a bit of an eye on your career ever since you came out to Iowa back in 2008 to help stump for Hillary Clinton a little bit. I was working out in the Council Bluffs office as a field organizer, and we always got just like nonstop surrogates coming out that we had to build all these kind of events for. But I remember, and I can't remember the exact details, but I remember coming away that like me and the other field organizer out there was like, wow, that Jay Inslee is actually one of the most helpful and nicer ones that we've had come out. So
I'm glad I got a beer for you that day. Then
apparently no, but I still remember that. I was very appreciative.
I really enjoyed that time. It was. I remember being in Red Oak, and I just remember saying, "What a great community!" Just I can see living there.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
Good. Now, before we get into some of my main questions here, why don't we first, how about you just give a little brief bio on yourself, your background growing up and what drew you into politics?
Well, the most important thing I can see in my bio is that I'm going to do everything possible to get Fred Hubbell elected governor of Iowa. Everything else is peripheral to this issue. But since you asked me, I will say that I'm a guy who grew up in Seattle, married my high school sweetheart, went to law school, went broke trying to go to college twice. Practiced law, was an assistant city prosecutor, went to the state legislature, beat a Republican in a huge upset, then went to the U.S. Congress in 92, beat a Republican in a huge upset, got beat in 94 in the Republican flood tide, and looking forward to a similar wave this year in the exact opposite direction. Went and worked in the Clinton administration in the Health and Human Services for the Northwest region, then went back, beat an incumbent Republican in a seat near Seattle, and was in Congress for 16 years, then became governor in 2012. I have two really important jobs right now. I'm governor of the state of Washington, and I'm grandfather of officially designated the three cutest grandchildren in the state of Washington. So those are good ones. And got three sons and three incredible daughter-in-laws. So I'm a pretty lucky guy, and I'm lucky. Our states, Washington, Iowa. What Fred's going to get to do, I know he's going to enjoy it because our states have a lot of similarities. We're huge agriculture. My former congressional district was an agricultural district. We're innovative states. You look the cultivation corridor, I think they call it. So this is a high-tech state. People don't understand that. It's a clean tech state. It's a clean energy state. It has the capability of. It led the green revolution, feeding the world. Now it can lead the green revolution in clean energy. We were just out at the wind turbine farm out here, just to the north. Something that I kind of predicted 9 years ago. I co-authored a book about clean energy, and so now seeing the opportunities for clean energy to defeat climate change right here in Iowa is exciting to me. So. That's a quick bio, and I'm sure there's some things I left out, but they're not worth mentioning.
Sure. Now, you're the chair of the DGA this year. Some of my listeners know all the kind of like the national committees and that kind of thing. But can you do just a real brief overview of what the DGA is? And
the Democratic Governors Association won't surprise you. It's the Association of Sitting Governors, and it's dedicated to two things. One, helping us work together, share ideas, share ways that we're fighting the chaos of the Trump administration, which, by the way, we're leading on in the state of Washington. And thank you for your Attorney General joining us in our lawsuit on the child separation policy. I appreciate that. And we also have an electoral arm to elect Democratic governors. And that's why I'm here, because we think this is one of the highest priority races for us, because we've got such a tremendous candidate in Fred Hubbell. And I was looking ready for a change. The incumbent has essentially been a sycophant for Donald Trump. She has not stood up. Donald Trump is causing grievous potential harm to the state, reducing healthcare opportunities, failing to fund education, not being an effective counterweight to all of the things he's doing to hurt the clean energy economy. In fact, she even proactively tried to hurt the clean energy economy when she reduced the efficiency standards. In fact, she's been called the governor of Trump's America. I don't know if that's much of a title one would want. But
we've been at the center of all of this national stuff for the last couple of years here.
And I also think, just listening to people today, there's a sense of people want to see a restoration of civility and dignity and tolerance instead of the hatred and division that Donald Trump and Fred is just perfect for that. He's just a gracious, dignified person, good listener, and I think he's a perfect candidate for this moment.
Yeah, did you meet him before today when you came?
I've talked to him on the phone. This is the first time I get the chance to meet him, and you got a sense of his kind of personal character. And I think that sort of his personal attributes of being non-threatening, civil, dignified, compared to people's worry about what Trump has foisted in the nation, is really great for the moment.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I've been talking about. Some of the things that I've written is that, are we going to come into 2018, 2020, and the voters just get so exhausted of the Trump presidency, of just, careening from one disaster to another, instead of, electing, kind of like a fire breathing liberal type, which I'd be fine with on a policy issue. But is what's going to be most attractive to some voters is just kind of like a calm, steady hand that, that they're not going to screw things up, that they're just going to be good administrators and good stewards of our budget.
Here's why I really like Fred's candidacy. I described his personal qualities, but don't think that is passivity in some sense, or a sense of just go along to get along. He is a person of very deep belief. So he led this effort for clean water, to have this constitutional amendment for clean water. That's near and dear to my heart because we know the water pollution issues in the Midwest in general. And so he led on that. He didn't have to do that. He was a successful entrepreneur and he showed a lot of leadership. He was, a leader in Planned Parenthood. He stood up for women's rights because they've been attacked unmercifully by the Republicans and Trump and this governor right now, who is the most extreme person in America right now, trying to take a woman's reproductive civil rights away. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't think that his dignity reduces the fact that he's a person of strong conviction. And we need that standing up to Donald Trump. Look, I've done it every day from Sunday. We were the first state to crush his Muslim ban in court. We've now led the country in this new lawsuit about the child separation. We need people who are willing to do that. We're leading an effort to build a clean energy economy, both in Washington and Iowa, to defeat climate change. And so we need people with strong principle, and he is that. So that's why I'm really high on his candidacy.
Sure. Now you mentioned a bit there of, some of the things the Trump administration has been doing that's specifically impacting the Iowa economy, especially the Iowa ag economy, and issues of kind of moving backwards on clean energy, which we've led the way in for a while. It's been interesting and sometimes frustrating when you see reports from reporters coming into the state, and sometimes it's just through my own conversations with voters out there. Some folks in some of the rural areas of the state still just keep on wanting to give Trump the benefit of the doubt time and time again, even as, some of the worst impacts of these tariffs are actually starting to get felt. What's the way, since so much of this is just kind of revolving around this idea of tribalism and just hyperpartisanship these days, how do you finally cut through and actually connect some of these really bad policies to being like, no, actually Trump is doing this because he's screwing up?
Well, listen, I learned something a long time ago in politics. There's always going to be somebody who didn't get the memo who's going to support your opponent. Okay. Right. So there will be, at long last, one person who will be Donald Trump after he's cratered the entire Iowa economy. So yes, there are going to be some diehards like that, but there has been such a huge shift of people having a belly full of the Trump administration in so many ways. And that's demonstrated by the voters making decision, not just my opinion. We have flipped 46 seats in special election ever since Donald Trump had the biggest inaugural crowd in human history. Right. And that's happened all over the states. Here in Iowa, I think is very impressive. There has been an average in the special election since Donald Trump was elected there's been an average improvement by 20 percentage points for Democrats. That looks like a wave, any way you cut it right now. Don't trust me. Ask Scott Walker, Wisconsin, who said, look, I'm in big trouble here. And he is, as many Republicans are. And there's a reason for that. People have just been like psychologically assaulted by this tweeting behavior. You know, I went to the White House when the governors went to meet Trump, and we were talking about he wanted to arm first grade teachers with Glocks on their hip. Yeah. And I told him what I thought of that, but I also told him, look, Mr. President, you got to tweet less and listen more. And he hasn't done it. It's gone downhill since then. So I feel that there is a great verve of people who are going to vote, Democrats who are energized. I see no signs that Democrats are abandoning ship or deciding this fight's not worth it. I think the incentive for Democrats to vote has increased. The number of Republicans who have said they've had enough of the inhumanity and incivility and allowing intolerant voices to flourish amongst the Republicans is increased because there's no Republican Party anymore. That party has been hijacked by Donald Trump. Good Republicans, and there are many, have decided we've had it. We're voting Democrat. You saw Schmidt the other day, one of George Bush's advisors said, I just can't do this anymore. And you know, the most recent example, obviously, was his children's separation policy, which was an intentional, premeditated, with malice aforethought effort to abuse children. And I don't know how else to say it, by forcibly separating them from their parents intentionally in order to use them as hostages to try to leverage some wall out of the U.S. Congress. Now, he's failed in that, and it's not going to happen, I don't believe. But it was evil. But I think people understand that when we speak out now, we can win. We spoke up, and he folded like a cheap suit. And so I just think that his cruelty is going to be defeated by our compassion, and his den of deceit is going to be defeated by our insistence of truth, and his chaos is going to be defeated by the U.S. Constitution. That's why I do believe he will be a blip in history, and we're going to get through this. We're tougher than he is, and we're more committed to a long-term value. So I'm an optimist on this battle.
Good. And kind of on that point, you know, I don't know. I almost felt like this past week and a half, 2 weeks with the family separation policy, it almost feels like we're getting to a tipping point where this was just really, really several steps too far. And it also seems like one of the very few times where Trump has actually seriously had to backtrack and completely go back on one of his policies, and at least have to try, you know, sign an executive order, whether or not he even needed to do that. But you know, regardless, you know, I don't know. How do Democrats actually take advantage of that?
You ask a very specific question. I'm going to give a very specific answer. Those of us who are on this discussion today, there is something every single one of us can do to try to retake Iowa and restore the values of America this November. And that is get out a piece of paper or your laptop and make a list of the 10 people you know who are under the age of 35. Yeah. And I'm very serious about this. And then contact them this September, October, November, and make sure they vote. Right. Because when those people vote, we will win big time. Those people get climate change. They know Trump's denial and Ryan's acceptance of reducing clean energy efficiency standards is totally unacceptable. They know it's wrong to take away a woman's right of choice. They know that we should not fan the flames of intolerance. They know enough you don't separate kids from their parents. And I'm very serious about that. And here's the reason I say that. A lot of people have been so upset about the child separations. This has really hit people where they live in their heart. My daughter-in-law, who's just a wonderful, she's a biologist, she's a scientist, she's a wonderful mother to her 3 grandkids. She has literally lost sleep over this. And she's asked me, what can I do? And my answer is really, really simple. Get every young person you can to go vote. And we'll retain the values of this country. And I hope people will do that. If they do that, Fred's going to win. Yeah. And we're going to retake the seat in the 1st district and have maybe the youngest woman in congressional history and first woman member of the Iowa delegation. And I love the delegation and Dave and Leonard and my friends. And so I'd like to see that grow as well. So I hope people will be engaged this year. If they will, we will win this thing. Because I have to tell you, the Republicans are very concerned. They understand this. They read the polls as well as we do. And if we vote, we will win. And now we want people to be able to vote. I'm proud of my state and having the best voter rights laws in the United States. This year, we increased them to have automatic motor voter, same-day registration. I'm even paying the stamps this year, so you don't have to put a stamp on your envelope to vote. And it's the kind of thing you can do when you're governor that I look forward to Fred being able to do. Look, I hope he'll join me when he's governor having a net neutrality bill. I was the first governor to sign a net neutrality bill. In fact, we're the only state that has full protection of net neutrality right now. I was proud to sign a bill that essentially protects women from pay inequity by making sure that they can't unknowingly pay men more than women. Right. I was happy to do an executive order the other day that prohibits employers from stopping a woman from having access to the court if she's sexually harassed. We've made the biggest educational investment in state history. And importantly, we have 700,000 people now on insurance that's leading the country. One of the most successful healthcare reform efforts. And the reason I mention these things is this. My state has blown up the Republican myth. The Republican myth is that if you treat working families fairly, if you look at efforts to build an economy where everyone has an opportunity, if you respect ideas of fairness and tolerance, it'll destroy your economy. Right. Now, we have blown up that myth because we have done all of these progressive things. And as a result, we have, according to CNBC, the best economy in the United States. According to Business Insider magazine, the best place to do business in the United States. And the reason is that when you invest in your people, when you're tolerant and you allow people to come to your state, no matter who they love or what religious belief they have, you recruit better people, you recruit better businesses, and you grow your economy. So my state has demonstrated the fact that if you believe in fairness and progressive values, you're going to grow your economy. And I look for Fred making sure Iowa does as well.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I was going to ask about. What does a Democratic administration look like?
Washington State.
Yeah, Washington State.
Now, you have to understand, I've been able to accomplish these even with the Republican Senate. So we passed the largest transportation package in the history of the state and the greenest transportation bill in the history of the state. Well, Washington, D.C. can't build a birdhouse. They keep talking about infrastructure bill and they can't build a culvert. So this has come because these are things I've been working on for a long time. I've been fighting for a clean energy economy for a long time. I wrote a book about it 9 years ago, and now we're seeing it come to fruition in my state and your state, which is exciting to me. Unfortunately, the climate science becomes more and more challenging, as you know, so we have to move faster, but we're committed to that.
Another big priority that you were able to get done was the paid family medical leave issue. That's something that has a massive impact on people's lives. And we've been making a little bit of progress on that in places around the country, but it never seems to be as big of a conversation piece in the larger political sphere. What specifically were you able to get accomplished?
Well, we have the best, we have the most comprehensive plan in the country as far as benefits and coverage, and it's a joint contribution. And it's a very fair, very sophisticated system, and I'm very proud of it. It's not the only thing we've done for working people. In the last year, we've improved the prevailing wage laws so that people, people doing contracting work get actually paid what the real prevailing wage is. This was a huge win for folks who work in construction, and I feel very strongly about that. I feel strongly that people ought to have the right to join a union, and the reduction of people's ability to be in a union is one of the reasons we have so much inequality right now. Yeah. So these are things that are productive, and I look forward to joining Fred and working on them.
Another thing that you got going on in your state is in Seattle. They were able to push through a $15 an hour minimum wage, one of the few places in the country where we have that. They're still ramping up. Is that
we're
right?
We're in the ramping up program, but I have to tell you, it's been very successful so far. The Republican pushback on that, it would kill restaurants. Well, there's no busier restaurants in America right now than in Seattle right now. We have found that it's been very successful. And it's kind of fundamental because people can't be very good consumers and businesses can't thrive without consumers. And this makes sure that there's consumers with a few dollars in their pockets so they can buy products. And so we have found that it actually, if anything, has improved economic performance and improved the business climate. And again, this comes back to the issue. What do you get if you increase your minimum wage, have good family wage, sick leave policies, have a good prevailing wage rule, invest in education, and have decent gun safety laws, which we've improved in the last 3 years twice now, and we'll do again this November. You get the best economy in the nation.
Right.
So I think that we're Exhibit A on what a visionary platform can do for your state, and there's no reason that can't happen in Iowa because this is a state like mine that is innovative. It has an innovative culture. Look, it led the Green Revolution. It's fed the world. That was a miracle that happened here in Iowa. And it can do the same thing right now in clean energy and is doing that in the wind turbine industry, which now is just putting up 2.5 megawatts. Yeah. Midwestern Energy is already 50% renewable energy, and others are at 30% that I just visited. So I really believe the innovative spirit of Iowa is shared with my state, and I look for working with Fred on it.
Now, you're out here in Iowa, so, as you may know, Iowa law requires reporters like myself to ask you, are you thinking about national things after 2018, looking in the future? There's some chatter that, perhaps you might be a good presidential candidate.
You have asked that better than anyone else. You with great elan and great taste. Look, I really do believe that we can't wait for 2020. We just can't. There's too much at stake. We got to win in 2018. So I am really focused in 2018. I'm helping governors around the country, and it's important in their states. It's important to stop gerrymandering. It's the only way we're going to stop gerrymandering that's killing the House of Representatives. We have to win in 2018. We cannot have the luxury of sort of looking forward to 2020. So I'm answering your question by telling you I'm doing everything I can right now, and it's just a joy to do it. This is such a great state. It's such an important state, obviously. It does help pick presidential candidates. Barack Obama was not born in Kenya; he was born in Iowa in the Caucasus. So we hope lightning strikes again.
Yeah. Now, finally, as you mentioned earlier, in this, you were elected to Congress, then you got beat after a few years. You ran for governor, didn't get it. You ran for Congress later on, got there, ran for governor again, won. Here in Iowa, we just had a lot of primaries. We had a lot of very hotly contested races, a ton of candidates in nearly every race. It was a bit of a challenge to cover it all. But we had a lot of good people who ran who just, came up short in some of those. As somebody who lost and then ran again and was successful later on, what's your suggestion to those folks coming out of some of those races?
Well, a couple suggestions. One, it really hurts to lose, right? Don't think losing's easy. It hurts. These people work their hearts out, their family members, their friends, doorbells for them. So you got to realize it's going to hurt, number one. But number two, we all got to get back in the saddle. We don't have the luxury of not being united this year. We have too much at stake and too many civil liberties if we allow Donald Trump to remain untrammeled. And if you do this, my case is one example. I lost 2 races in a row, and I'm governor of the state of Washington, and have won now several in a row in congressional races as well. That can happen if you keep your head up and your chin out and you're active and you're a good team player to help other people win. And so I've experienced that. I've always thought loss was just a temporary thing and a mirage until the next game, because there's always a next game. And I would just hope people get in it, because we need everybody this year. We need everybody on deck. We need everybody pulling on the rope. The damage that this man in the White House is doing to our country cannot allow us the luxury of not everybody being on the team this year. So I look forward to that. And so far that's happening. We've been very unified around the country. We've had vigorous primaries in Virginia, where we had a vigorous primary with, really hotly contested with passion on both sides. And right after that, we got united and we won going away in Virginia. And we need to do that in every state in the country. And I believe we can do that.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Governor, for joining me. Thanks for coming out and helping us out here in Iowa.
Good luck.
All right.
Come visit Washington. It's a great place to vacation.
Yeah. Yes.